Hi, everyone. It is time to begin. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. We're very humbled to be learning alongside you at our Institute Symposium, and we welcome you to our session, Connecting Social Media and SEL, How Social Emotional Learning Can Help Students Be Better Digital Citizens. If you haven't already, we welcome you to introduce yourselves in the chat and to use the chat freely throughout today's sessions to offer comments and resources as we go along. I'm Auva Saghafi. I'm the content marketing coordinator at South by Southwest EDU in Austin, Texas. And I'm thrilled to introduce my colleague, Jayden Liberty, who will be presenting alongside me. Now, most of us in this room have experienced and seen the birth of social media, and we all know that it's a part of our lives more than anything else, really. So let me get the slides going. Jayden. So what's the goal for today? Technology is used all around us, at home, at work, and even in the classroom, which makes the knowledge of technology best practices a fundamental skill. Please join us as we discuss how we can use the classroom to teach our students the importance of navigating the digital world safely. We aspire for this session to be incredibly collaborative and for us all to leave, including Jayden and I, with new information and practices. We want this to be just an incredibly interactive session. So today we hope to accomplish a few things. When implemented effectively in classrooms, social emotional learning practices can help students find their identities and locate themselves within communities, both in person and online. However, many young people report having their mental health negatively impacted by social media. Today, we're going to discuss implementing the best SEL teaching methods so that students can navigate this digital world safely when finding their voice and developing their sense of self. Today, we're going to together disband into breakout rooms, then rejoin to discuss our findings and learn from one another and work on solutions.
Now, let us lay out the landscape a little bit. Join us in taking a look back at what maybe your social media and your students might have looked like in 2022. First, we're going to start off with January. For 3 years, teens and young adults across the world anxiously waited for Euphoria Season 2 to launch on HBO. Episodes aired weekly for 8 weeks, and the highly anticipated series made it HBO's second most watched show since 2004. Euphoria is a TV show that follows the lives of a group of high schoolers, all dealing with challenges such as high school drug use, addiction, violence, and other destructive behaviors. People are watching or hosting watch parties every week, and even more so, this discussion online after a new episode is all you can see on social media, and people are reenacting scenes on TikTok, analyzing characters on Twitter, and all around creating memes and making light of these serious issues. When it came to be February, short videos relating to the Ukraine war were posted all over social media, and people were really calling this invasion the first TikTok war. And so where you were able to see what was happening in real time from the point of view of soldiers, civilians, both Ukrainians and Russians, you saw protests around the world and other commentary. And as we can all guess, this platform did end up becoming a little susceptible to disinformation, as it showed people were posting clips from years ago, other wars, saying that it was happening now. And then came March, the Oscar slap. So during Chris Rock's monologue at the 2022 Oscars, there was a joke made that followed that Will Smith walked on stage and ended up slapping Chris Rock across the face. Not only was this on live television and it became viral the moment it happened, but the situation became messy and posed a question on the etiquette and impact of future comedy award shows and other ceremonies. In April, the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial began, and this was a great opportunity to talk with our teens about the importance of dating violence. However, it kind of ended up being spun and perceived in the media as more of entertainment and teen fighting. In July, if you didn't know, some big news came to our For You pages, like TikTok stars Charli D'Amelio and Lil Huddy, when they broke up after Lil Huddy cheated on her last year. It became insanely viral, and now that she was dating his best friend Landon Barker, Huddy responded in releasing a diss track. In August, Andrew Tate was removed from social media, and Andrew Tate is really known for saying offensive things about women, such as women belong in the home, they can't drive, and are men's property. He was kicked off of all social platforms because of his offensive comments and their impact. His derogatory words can be manipulated and really is a part of a dangerous system that radicalizes young men to adopt harmful views against women and LGBTQ youth. In September, the Queen died. Queen Elizabeth II died, and she was the longest reigning British monarch in history. And with her death, we saw a monumental piece of history unfold and flood the media. Which leads us to now in October. The new docuseries about Jeffrey Dahmer hit Netflix, and this was the closest depictions of real life events telling the Dahmer story ever. And it really gained a ton of controversy because the show didn't ask for permission from the victims' families because of its very gruesome depictions of events that occurred to the victims. And now knowing the binge culture of today's teenagers, it kind of put into question if this is appropriate for teens to watch or even hear about on social media. So this show also prompted a ton of discussion about Dahmer and sometimes even empathize with him, which can lead to unregulated content. A bigger issue emerge with unregulated content.
So looking at what's going on currently, it's probably no surprise that social media users are getting younger and younger, and their screen time is just increasing significantly. From 2019 to 2021 alone, screen time has increased 17%. According to a Common Sense report from 2021, when measuring the post-pandemic media use from tweens and teens, the average daily entertainment screen use for tweens was 5 hours and 33 minutes a day. Later, when that kid becomes a teenager, the amount of time jumps significantly, on average 3 hours and 6 minutes more per day. So where are they spending their time now? Nowadays, kids are using short-form video platforms with 32% preferring YouTube, 20% Snapchat, 13% Instagram, and 13% TikTok. And these students are digesting content at just a much faster rate. This poses a lot of consequences. By being on social media just so many hours within the day, there's a potential negative impact on many areas in students' lives. First, we look at their reputation. Digital responsibility is being enforced, and as they say, what you post on the internet can really never be deleted. This is true, and what they post could easily come back to hurt their reputation as well. They could potentially get in trouble at the school, hurt their chances for getting to college in the future, and maybe even hurt their relationships with friends. We see this really frequently just all over the internet with celebrities as well, with the rise of cancel culture. Next, we take a look at their mental health. What students are seeing can really negatively impact how students see themselves. Research suggests that social media is increasing student anxiety and depression, and with the constant posting of the best parts of people's days and lives, students are seeing an illusion of what life should be like and might feel like theirs just doesn't measure up. They're constantly comparing themselves to one another. They can't ever disconnect from the drama at school or even with friends. They might feel FOMO, or fear of missing out, because they aren't included in outings with peers that they're seeing on social media. And they're having much shorter attention spans because of short form content. All of this and more is happening on social media. It can really hurt a student's and any person's perception of themselves, particularly young impressionable students who are trying to navigate their place in the current school environment. Next, we have cyberbullying. How others speak to you and how you even see others speak to one another has an impact on students. Nowadays, there are many, many anonymous methods for posting online, including anonymous apps or creating fake online accounts. And this allows people to feel invincible, pushing out hate without knowing the impact on the person receiving it on the other end. However, there is a caveat that we're seeing with the rise of TikTok. People are fighting back, and there are many more ways for your thoughtless and hateful comments to be seen, with the ability to create videos via Stitch and respond create videos in response to certain comments. But all in all, comment sections really are not a kind place, and it's important to realize that when you are posting on or absorbing social media, that what you say can really hurt someone else, and what you see might even hurt you. Finally, students may be missing out. By spending so much time on social media, students are losing time for other activities such as physical exercise or interacting with one another in person, communicating with the world around them, exploring different hobbies, and more. All of these activities help a student learn more about themselves, be healthier, and just be overall happier. And when they don't make the time for it, they're really hurting themselves. So all in all, by spending so much time on and just not being knowledgeable participants of social media, students really risk damaging their reputation, hurting their mental health, participating in or being a victim of cyberbullying, and missing out on valuable time that could be spent elsewhere.
So after showing you this timeline and list of possible consequences, you can really see the impact of the virality of content and what exactly you ingest. So why don't we take an opportunity to go into our first breakout room? And I just want to mention, this takes a bit of time to go into your breakout. You'll see a pop-up in a few minutes. Just make sure to click that to give you access. And we can come back together and rejoin some of the trends that you've discussed in these rooms. We also have some questions that we're putting up on the slide, such as what have you seen on social media that has affected students or those around you? And also, what do you think the impact is on students when these unregulated modes of content are being ingested? So we'll come see you again in a couple minutes.
Welcome back.
We'll just wait for everyone to filter back in. Great, looks like everyone's almost back. So I hope you guys had some great dialogue in your breakout rooms. We'll be jumping back in another one in a couple minutes, but I guess now I'll just start off and ask if anyone wants to come off mute and maybe discuss some of the major themes that they discussed in their time together, or any interesting or new findings that you guys are welcome to even bring it in the chat if you're uncomfortable coming off mute. So.
I see there's some ideas from Utah. Very exciting.
Well, awesome. I guess we'll just keep moving on. Basically, all of these themes suggest a bigger question, and it's how can we be proactive as educators to minimize these above consequences? And the point here is for educators to really emphasize this importance to students on building these SEL skills so that they can be their own best advocate and identify these consequences on their own in order to be safe online. So through SEL strategies and SEL framework, I really believe we can do this. Right now, social emotional learning strives to help students feel confident about their own unique identity, respect the uniqueness of others, and also build meaningful relationships with those around them. And with a significant portion of Gen Z students experiencing intense emotional stress and feelings of isolation, probably due to the pandemic, online learning has taken a toll on the mental health of students and shown some serious implications. And right now, we're living in an era where we have no other choice but to meet the students' both social and emotional needs. So social emotional learning really helps us build this foundation for students to live in positive environments by making connections for students inside the classroom that also mirror a variety of their identity, which whether it's gender, their ethnicity, sexual orientation, race, family structure, interests, values, or beliefs. Right now, we're in a world where students are more diverse than ever, and these techniques are truly essential to set students up for success in school and in their life. So we're using SEL in our daily lives, and I'm sure a ton of you guys as educators are very strategic and intentional when implementing these strategies in your own classrooms. But as we all know, they have shown to increase classroom behavior, manage stress, and ease intense negative feelings while helping them develop better attitudes towards the world. But just to make it simple for this presentation, we've pulled the CASEL SEL framework as our guide. And me and Auva's personal goal for you guys today is for you to hopefully take something from this simplified and broken down framework and help implement it into your own classrooms so they can grow these SEL skills. Because as students become more self-aware, they're able to self-manage, become socially aware, use relationship skills, and therefore make responsible decisions. So not only can students be safe digital users, but they can regulate their emotions and be truly intentional as they engage with social media. So how can students be digitally responsible? Students are able to find, evaluate, organize, use, and communicate the information that they consume. And by teaching the importance of information literacy, we open up an opportunity and a guide for them to understand all the complexities in the digital world. And this truly leads us to our next point. The online landscape is one that is more complex than they may realize. This is a multi-layered network with a ton of different communities, waves of speech, expression. Therefore, there is a persistent need to filter information at all times. So awareness to these complexities allows youth to really decipher and apply different techniques to moderate the content they're consuming. It's better to be a skeptic online, and through social media, students can create online profiles and communicate with their peers as well as strangers. And just as they can post freely online, it's good to build awareness to this illusion that others may put out there as well. So skepticism as a baseline is a great way to promote fact checking in order to be safe. And yes, I see you, Kevin, in the chat. We'll share our slide with you after the meeting. And as we mentioned earlier, what you post online and read on the internet can be hurtful to people's feelings and to their own reputation. Students should be mindful when they post because, like it or not, posting online is permanent. And once you post, you lose control of wherever it goes. So instilling this thought into students that behave respectfully when they're online, know the consequences, and watch their tone will all lead them to using social media with caution. After knowing this, how do we teach students to be responsible on social media? And with the SEL framework above, we're going to walk you through and kind of try to connect all these dots. By informing them how to be digitally responsible citizens, we build a self-awareness to our students where they can know the scope and the risks of interacting online. And after speaking in the classroom, the steps in how to regulate your emotions, practicing how to incorporate respect for the online environment, this will hopefully become routine. And then ideally, they can apply these SEL strategies on their own to flag and self-manage social media pages, the people they're interacting with, and maybe the time they're spending. But by truly understanding the impact and the power of the words they say and consume, social awareness builds, and I think it directly affects how they treat themselves and others. Because social media does come with one golden rule: don't post when you're angry, because a split second of rage can have some permanent consequences. So social media provides avenues that help people find communities. And by understanding SEL, you naturally just become a better listener, you respect differences, and also think mindfully. And it really does reflect in the relationships that they build, both online and in person. And I think we could have some great return with that. All of these lead to responsible decisions. And by being cautious about what they post and consume, students are able to evaluate what comes their way and know exactly how to respond. So therefore, they're navigating this world a little bit safer.
So it is time for another breakout room. How we can better teach students about safe social media in schools today is really something we really want to hone in on in this discussion. So we're going to ask that you come together again to talk about what you're doing and what you've seen be done in classrooms. And we have a couple questions to help prompt your discussion, such as what meaningful conversations have you had about social media in the classrooms, and what are ways that maybe we can spark our students to critically think about their media use. I'll also send these questions in the chat for as a resource, and we'll bring you back in about 5 to 10 minutes to discuss with the group. Please be patient as we get the breakout rooms figured out. And we might try to switch you guys around a little bit this time. All right. All right, well, what did you guys find? Again, you can feel free to add your comments in the comment section, or if you feel so inclined, unmute and speak. While you have time to gather your thoughts together, we took a moment and reviewed the chat while you were in the breakout rooms, and we really love that y'all are using and enjoying the KSEL method framework, and that it's proven helpful in your own districts. We're very excited about that. So Christina says, oh, someone want to speak?
Yeah, I was just going to say, first of all, thank you for this opportunity to just bounce ideas off of other people that are in the same situation and thinking about the positive ways that we can turn this tide around social emotional learning and social media. The example that I had given in my group was that when early in my career, MySpace was all the rage, right? And students didn't know how to lock up their pages. And so I was able, and they used their full government names. So I was able to learn a lot more than I needed to, but it also helped me to identify like harmful behaviors that they may have been engaging in and being able to intervene in a positive way. By the time I left the classroom in 2012, Twitter was all the rage. And Twitter was being utilized to let students know where the fight was going to happen and how to connect with each other. And so I was saying to my group, like, you know, since then, IG has blown up, right? And TikTok and all of these other entities that have negatively impacted a lot of students' ability to see themselves as enough. And it's the comparison of, you know, everybody else. Like, you already deal with that when you're in high school, right? You already deal with that when you're in middle school, but imagine watching somebody who has 1.4 million followers and comparing yourself to their life. And so that's just something that I'm processing and trying to figure out, like, how to counteract the Kardashian effect. No shade to the Kardashians, but the Kardashian effect.
No, absolutely. And it's not even something that's just, I mean, I experience it too. And I've graduated college and I'm working now, and I see kids that are 17, 18, and they're making so much money just from being famous on the internet. And I'm like, well, they're younger than me. Why are they more successful than me? You know, so it's definitely, so I can only imagine how, like you said, being in high school and already going through those emotions of being a high schooler, how that added burden can really hurt and be painful.
Especially the global impact. Like, your access to the amount of people you meet has expanded exponentially. So not only there's a range of differences in thought and opinions, but you're also exposed to these. And it's hard for students, and it's such a challenge to figure out how do we kind of like get in the middle of that and give them the best like chance to combat and like find who they are in a safe way. So thank you for sharing that, Rhonda. That was an amazing contribution.
And Christina, I see you have your hand raised.
Yes, thank you. As part of the group discussion we had, I was mentioning that one of the most meaningful conversations that I've had about social media in in a classroom setting or working with educators, administrators, and families is the impact that screen time and the usage of technology, that impact that it's having on the brain development of infants, which we are starting to get the data from research in this area, that because infants now are interacting with adults that constantly have a screen in between them and themselves, we actually are changing the way that their brains are developing because they're not getting that feedback from a human face that is showing them the expressions of emotions. The human face is not reacting to what they're doing or what they're showing interest in. It's even hard for them to get that reaction when they're crying or when they're upset. And so they're growing up. I think Rick, who was also in my group, explained it so well as an echo chamber. And so this echo chamber exists for those that are using digital media or social media in these ways, but that echo chamber is also for the young children around us who aren't even using the technology. So one of the hardest things that we've had to communicate, especially with parents and caregivers, is that if they are concerned about their child's brain development, if they're concerned about their child's media usage or screen time, their behavior as the adult and the caregiver has to change first. Because if children don't have that appropriate model of social media usage and screen time, then they're not going to be able to learn it for themselves. And they absolutely have to have adults put down those devices so that they can interact with humans on a regular basis for development that's healthy.
That's fascinating and completely aligned. Wow, that's insane.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that with like parents and kids because I don't know. That's
Awesome.
crazy. Thank you so much.
Yeah, to add a little bit to what Christina earlier shared, we were in the earlier breakout room together. One thing is I have been get some letters trainings, and we have been talking about that all these screens and screen time and all those resources may be recorded as videos. Actually get students enough language input, but doesn't give them enough time to interact with a real human being. So that largely impact their language ability, especially their expressive language development. Another thing is the long screen time might really impact the students for how they expect the world will be like react to their request, because the real world won't be like one click, everything just voila, all different. So yeah, we really have a long way to go. And I'm so glad that Christina and her team have been working on supporting the early childhood students on this part.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Christina and your team, honestly. Well, I guess we will continue. Thank you so much for, discussing and sharing your findings with the group. So moving forward, the opportunities really are endless when we're cognizant of the impact of connecting SEL and social media. For example, students can find communities and make friends who share similar interests. They're exposed to different ranges of thoughts. They can create a sense of identity, become involved in worldly conversations, find a passion, and become inspired to make a difference, develop a sense of voice, and share their creativity. And the online world can really truly be an inspirational place when we properly guide our students in this new medium. At the same time, we remember why we use social media in the first place. And in all, it's to have fun, detach, maintain relationships, make new friendships, share interests, explore identity, and most importantly, to learn. So before you go, we have compiled a few tips and tricks that you can take with you. And if you have any tips and tricks of your own, you are more than welcome to share them in the chat. The more the merrier. First, we recommend keeping a journal in the classroom. It can be a recurring activity that allows students to write down what news they've seen on the internet that week, or maybe how much time they spent online. This really helps promote mindfulness and can be a good timeline for them to look back on and really reflect and maybe adjust based on their findings. They can also you can also hold meetings in class where there's open dialogue with discussion questions about how social media makes them feel. Also, we can be wary of what platforms you are promoting to your students. For example, because some platforms have age limits, and you don't want your student using a platform that may not be right for them. For example, Instagram actually has a minimum age limit of 13 years old, which I didn't know that until recently. And I know my siblings were using Instagram before they were 13. So it's kind of good to have that knowledge before pushing and promoting students to go on particular platforms. Furthermore, you can use functional social media platforms in your classroom. For example, apps that track books, such as Goodreads, allow students to keep track of the books they're reading, build communities so they can see what their classmates are reading. They can leave reviews on books, so it really promotes reading in general, which can be very helpful, and we don't see a lot of it these days. And it can be functional for students and provide a healthy social media environment. Finally, we also encourage students to create mood boards that reflect their goals for the future and maybe share those on social media. This way they can show the world what they're working towards and receive and give support to their peers. Bridging social emotional learning and technology really supports students taking action and finding their voices online. Social media can be used in classrooms to help students find and identify conversations to partake in, explore a student's passion points, and promote active participation in online cultures where their values are celebrated and public problems can be addressed. Social emotional learning practices provide an opportunity for students to use the internet as a tool for identity development and to promote responsible decision-making. Social connection online has and continues to help develop those key ideas and beliefs that are not yet fully realized in adolescence. And educators are key to helping our students strengthen relationships and empower others inside the classrooms and across the globe. With the use of internet, youth identity can be supported, and educators can reimagine ways to connect their students to the world from inside of their homes. So all in all, we've reached the end. Thank you so much for attending our session. We really had a wonderful time discussing social media and SEL and have learned a lot from you. And we hope you've learned a little something from us as well. Before you leave, if you could please fill out the Aurora Symposium survey. The link has been added in the chat. Thank you, Jim. And thank you. We've enjoyed this session, spending this hour with you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.